Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched the brand new movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I am very excited to talk about it. It is 12 o'clock in the morning. I was going to wait until tomorrow to talk about this, but there is just so much I need to say, so I figured I'm going to record the review tonight. I'm going to upload it tomorrow. If you guys don't know how my reviews work, I like to talk about the good, the bad, and then give you my score tomorrow. Bumblebee, that review will be coming out tomorrow evening, but right now, we're talking Spider-Man. So Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his reality and crosses paths with his counterparts from other dimensions to stop a threat to all reality. Did I just read Miles Morales out loud as a description for a movie that is currently coming to theaters? Is that not the most incredibly geeky and nerdy and awesome thing you have ever heard? This is a character that I've wanted to see on screen for so long. We've had plenty of iterations of Peter Parker, and I like a lot of the Spider-Man movies. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man 2. I'm a massive fan of Spider-Man Homecoming. There have been some absolute gems, and those two that I just mentioned in particular are two of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Maybe throw them in towards the end of my top 10. I'd have to check it out and make sure, but this movie had a lot to live up to because it has those other Spider-Man movies to compete against. And there's a lot of hype for this thing. Looking on Rotten Tomatoes, the score is at 100%. I liked the trailers a lot. I liked them more as I watched the newer ones. I didn't love the first trailer. I'm like, I don't know if this movie can necessarily do everything that people want it to do. How is it going to balance all of these characters? You see somebody like Spider-Ham. Okay, is he going to come in, going to tell some stupid jokes and make this movie a bit more cheesy than it needs to be? There's just a lot to handle, and I was very worried that Into the Spider-Verse could not handle it. Well, a big slap on the wrist for Austin, because Into the Spider-Verse did not just handle those things, it masterfully crafts all of those elements and brings us possibly, I am not definitively saying in this video because one, I have to think about it, and two, I may be releasing a Spider-Man movies ranked list. This might be at the top of my Spider-Man list. This movie was awesome. And I'm not just saying that because everybody else is saying that. I watched Gotti a few months ago. Everybody's saying, oh, it's the worst movie of the year. It's rare when a movie lives up to that kind of hype, but Gotti was one of the worst movies of the year. Same thing with Into the Spider-Verse. Oh, it's one of the best movies of the year, one of the best animated movies. Okay, is it really going to be that good, guys? I walk into the theater with my friend Dakota. We're both kind of rolling our eyes like,
okay, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. You guys think you're good at this movie review stuff. Well, we'll just prove you're wrong right here.
I kid you not, my friend Dakota turned around, looked me dead in the eyes after that movie was over. That may not just be my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. That may be my favorite superhero movie of all time. To be on that level, and I'm not completely disagreeing with him, the movie's fantastic. To be on that level of good, you have to do a lot of things right. So Austin, what does Into the Spider-Verse do right? Well, like I said, it handles all of these characters, but it doesn't just give you these characters and make them likable. It gives you a great voice actor behind them. It gives you a reason to care. Each individual character either gets an origin story or gets fleshed out to a T, and the voice cast is perfect for all of them. Jake Johnson as Peter Parker. Now, there are multiple iterations of multiple different Peter Parkers or Penny Parkers or Gwen Stacy's in this movie, but there are also a few that kind of slip in. At the beginning there's one, and at the end there's one with some special voice talent that you're not anticipating to hear in this movie. So keep an ear out, or keep an eye out, but keep an ear out for some very famous actors of note playing some characters that you won't expect, and then go check out IMDb and see who they play after you watch the movie, not before, because you will have a massive smile on your face when you hear their voice. My goodness, there are so many little things like that in this movie that just make you happy. There are Easter eggs, there are cameos. If you pay attention to television screens in the background, blink and you will miss all of these things. I may even do a spoiler review for this movie because there's just so much to talk about, especially when we're talking about the two, and I'll go ahead and get into them, the two post-credit scenes, mid-credit scenes. The mid-credit scene, very emotional, it's great, but the post-credit scene may be the funniest, most entertaining, most jaw-dropping if you're a fan of certain characters, post-credit scene I have seen in a long time, and maybe one of the best I've ever seen. So if you leave before those credits roll, just know that you have made a grave mistake in your life, and that is something that can never be fixed. Unless you go watch the movie again, then you can stay that time. And the amount of surprises I continued to get with this movie, I'm not going to say what any of them are. So it's hard to review this film because there are so many little details and things that I want to talk about, just things that I want to tell you guys about. You're going to love this and you're going to love that. But these are plot elements that I didn't really know going in, so I don't want to ruin the surprise for you guys. I want you to go in fresh. I can say this, I don't think this is a spoiler. I didn't know that there were going to be so many origin stories to these characters in the film. Well, guess what? The way that they go about that is brilliant, but the way that they give that to us on screen, I'm sitting there like, yeah, this is a major surprise. 10 minutes later, another major surprise. Just the way that they handle all of these characters, I can't believe it was so well crafted. When I was going into the film thinking, this thing could be an absolute mess, it was the opposite. And yes, you have the brilliant things that people have been talking about in all of the reviews that I've read so far, the comic book elements, the color scheme, just the look and visuals in general. It's one of the best looking animated movies I've seen in a long time. I love the style of the characters. I love when Miles jumps off of a building. You can feel, and this is an animated film, guys, you can feel the wind blowing against his face, and you can understand how epic this moment is just from what this is showing us in animation. And it's not even super realistic, it's more surrealistic, but I love the style that they went for. The backgrounds can be a bit to get used to because at times they can be a little blurry, but they manage to shift the focus in a way that you know in the back of your head, wow, they mean to do that because they're trying to focus your attention on something in the forefront of the screen. And every single Spider-Man, every version, whether it's Spider-Gwen or Spider-Ham or Spider-Noir, their atmosphere, their vibe, their animation style, it's all different. It's all cool. I thought all of it worked. From that to the voice cast, Nicolas Cage is in this movie. He is great. Haley Steinfeld, like I said, Jake Johnson, Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. How can I forget about this guy? This guy starred in Dope. I thought Dope was pretty dope. And then you have Mahershala Ali as a very special character in there. I thought he was really everyone. Brian Tyree Henry, everyone was good. There's not one bad actor in the bunch, and there's also not one bad song in the bunch. This soundtrack, this score, all of it works so well. I was visually pleased. I was audibly pleased. Everything you can possibly think of. I was sitting there just soaking it all in. This was comic book goodness, from the panels popping up in the background to the sound effects to the words coming on screen. We have never seen something like this. The closest thing I've seen to this, you remember that video game Ultimate Spider-Man? I had it on the Nintendo DS. I used to love that game. You got the comic book panels, you got the transitions. They tried it in live action with the 2003 Hulk. That didn't work. So this, the animation style, animation in general, is the way to go about it, and they went about it and they delivered on all of those aspects. Austin, are you going to keep talking about positives? Yes, because I have a lot. Just kidding, I'll add in one more thing. I thought the villain selection was really cool and how they managed that throughout all of the different universes. And the color palette was beautiful. Negatives? Like I said, it might take a bit to get used to the blurry background. You might have to have your eyes adjust. I liken it to the Lego movie, and it's funny because we have Chris Miller and Phil Lord, the same guys who did the Lego movie. And other than that, I will say Kingpin, while I really liked him, I like Liv Schreiber as Kingpin, I think he could have been a bit more fleshed out as the villain. Although I wouldn't want to take more time away from the characters that we know and love because I did know and love those characters. But I don't think Kingpin was the most fleshed out villain in the world otherwise. I can't think of anything else. Don't you just hate being all aboard the hype train sometimes? Don't you like standing out and being different? Well, I do, but Into the Spider-Verse is just a movie I don't see anyone disliking unless you hate Spider-Man as a character. And by the way, my friend also looked at me and said Miles Morales is now my favorite Spider-Man, and this guy has been a Peter Parker fan for years. This movie might convert you. Of course, you're going to have many different characters to choose from. All of that being said, and I can't believe I'm going to do it, this movie is going to be in my top 10 movies of the year, most likely, and I'm going to give this film a 98%. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did everything it needed to do and more. It executed on the audience that it was intended for. It's good for kids, it's good for adults, it's good for comic book and non-comic book fans. This movie is good for everyone, and I'm probably going to go back and see this again next weekend just to make sure I like it as much as I think I do, but my goodness. This thing blew me away, guys. So what did you think of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and have you even seen it yet? Are you excited? Is it this? Is it Bumblebee? Is it Aquaman? Later on today, you might just be getting a Bumblebee movie review. I believe that embargo is going to drop while I'm watching the film. I hope I can review it at that point. And then we have Aquaman and Mary Poppins later this month. It's a great month. It's a great year for comic book movies, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse may just be the best. We'll have to see when I do my top 10 video. You guys are the absolute best. I have a lot to work on with this Spider-Man movies ranked list. I'll catch you guys later.